Great. So I'm Anna Sidorovitch, and I'm a lecturer in TESOL, which is teaching English to speakers of other languages, contributing to across all our programs. But I'm actually the TESOL teacher education expert, and I would like to share with you my experience of first run of a module, a problem-based learning module on the MA TESOL, which is a postgraduate teacher education program. Okay, so just a brief outline of today's session. I'll give you a little bit of an introduction about myself and my involvement with PBL. There will be 3 interactive activities, hopefully we have time for all of them, in the middle, halfway through, and towards the end of the presentation. Then I'll tell you about more detail about the PBL on the MA TESOL course, and reflect on my journey as a PBL designer, module leader, and a PBL facilitator, focusing on the successes and challenges of running this module. So the problem-based, again a very brief overview of what problem-based learning is, just in case you are completely unfamiliar with it. It's a student-focused approach in which students learn more about a subject by working in PBL teams to solve an open-ended real-life problem. There's no fixed definition of PBL at the moment because it's been modified and sort of evolving over the years. But it started in the 80s, and for my PBL module, I've used the initial, the traditional PBL characteristics and the traditional model, but made some adaptations to it. So the key PBL characteristics are that the complex real life situations that the students deal with have no one correct answer, and that makes the focus for learning and for the PBL process. Students work in groups and they analyze the problems, they analyze the problem, identify their learning gaps. So they need to decide what they know already and what is new, and what they need to find out about. And they're asked to come up with good solutions, viable solutions. And on our module, they're also asked to decide which of the solutions that they've explored is the most effective one, considering the particular scenario that they focused on. So they do it through self-directed learning. They work in groups, they go away and work on a scenario. Then the members of staff act as facilitators, so they move away from the didactic style of teaching and are just there to support. This approach hopefully should lead to the development of subject-specific problem-solving capabilities and also other skills, like soft skills that, well, hopefully it develops. So my PBL experience dates back to my time when I worked at Nottingham University in one of the settles. I don't know if you remember that was quite a while ago. SETL stands for Centre for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. And I worked at the Centre for Integrative Learning as a researcher and academic developer. And one of the projects that we supported was a PBL project in the medical school. And I got really interested in this approach because I didn't know much about it before then, and that's been my dream to try and implement it on one of the courses that I've been teaching since. So, and finally this opportunity came a couple of years ago, and I've done a first run. So this year was the first time I ran this module. Okay, so now over to you. I was wondering if you've got any PBL experience at all, or you know something about PBL. If yes, just can you briefly describe it in chat? If not, then would you like to use PBL in your teaching? And what mode of delivery do you think you would be likely to adopt? For example, use PBL as a session as one lesson, then a sequence of sessions, a modular approach, which I've done, or as a program, sort of a curricular approach. Yeah, if you could write your answers in chat, would be great. Undergraduate medicine. Mm-hmm. First year medical students. Okay. All right. And others are probably contemplating using it, would like to consider it. Yes. Okay. Science level. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. So at Brighton, you have a range of PBL courses. I must admit, I've been on my own with this at Sheffield Hallam, and definitely in CSOL, I haven't when I've done my research and looked into studies and recent more relevant literature, I couldn't find much on using PBL at postgraduate levels in teacher education. But yes, I can see that there's quite a bit of interest, and medical education is something, undergraduate medical education, something that's been done a lot in PBL. Okay, great. So I hope, even though my experience is on the postgraduate course and that informed the development of the module, I hope that still some of the successes and challenges and the obstacles that we've come across would be useful for you if you decide to embark on that and designing a course. Okay, I'm just trying to. Great. So now onto the program itself, the program-based learning module on the MAT SOL program. It's an elective module, 15 credits, which is called Advancing Your TESOL Career. And we deliberately delivered it in semester 2 with the hope that the students will have gained particular skills like literature searching and some critical thinking and writing skills before they could start doing this module. It's offered to students with some language teaching experience. And the idea behind the module was to give them an opportunity to explore other topics beyond classroom teaching and deepen their knowledge of current English language teaching learning trends, introduce new knowledge and new skills in these areas: TESOL management, teacher training, curriculum and materials development. Another objective was to develop their reflexive skills as well. Yes, sorry.
We hope you're well. And that you're still going into the office and enjoying it. I wonder how Seal's doing.
I muted her. I'm not sure that was for you.
Okay. Okay, moving on. So we've had, because it's a small module, 15 credit module, we've had 6 input sessions over the period of 12 weeks. Each session consisted of 2 input hours and 1 PBL hour. So that the PBL facilitator, which was me in this instance, could help the students set up their group and set them on the PBL journey. They worked on it fortnightly, so they had 2 weeks to focus on one scenario. So they worked in self-selected PBL teams, so they would decide who they wanted to work with. There were 16 students on the module, so we had 4 groups of 4 students, and they were rotating. They chose a scenario every 2 weeks on a new topic, and there was a choice of 3 scenarios per topic. They could develop their own scenario if they wanted to, but only one student I think wanted to do that in the end, so they stuck with what we offered them. They also, and this is something that was slightly different to the traditional model, because I introduced PBL roles, and students could decide which role they wanted to take on, and as a group they could also decide if they wanted more roles or they wanted to sort of discard one of the roles. So these are the examples of the roles: the team leader, the note taker, the timekeeper, and the editor. So which was specific to this course because the objective was to develop their critical writing skills and their ability to summarize well. So then they would identify and analyze the problem or problems in the given scenario, explore ways of resolving the problems based on their own experience and other students' experiences, and they also needed to do a literature review, so do a bit of research, explore the relevant literature independently, and then produce a written PBL account, a draft, as a group, and submit it to the tutors or to myself this year for feedback. And then, as a summative assessment, they would choose one problem scenario, depending on the topic that they were particularly interested in, and write an individual 2,000-word PBL account with a reflective element in it. Okay. So before I talk about, before I talk about the challenges that I've experienced, I was wondering. I now cannot see the whiteboard at all. Laurie, can you? I can see the.
It's you'll have to stop screen sharing to open the whiteboard.
Okay. Yeah,
you have 2 minutes.
That's a good idea. So. Oh, okay. Right. Then maybe what we'll do, I'll talk you through the challenges, and then we'll have a brief discussion at the end. Right, so I need to go back to sharing. Okay. Right. So the positive outcomes and some challenges that I've experienced. As we're talking about our journeys today, so I thought I would focus on the preparation stage of a PBL module, and focus on the so-called packing for the PBL journey, and also a little bit on the assessment. So the preparation stage, the key aspect that I wanted to focus on. So I had to research PBL and understand it better, and identify the key stages and the key characteristics. Then I had to think of good problems associated with new topics, and liaise with other tutors who were delivering some of the sessions. Then together we thought about what scenarios we could offer to students, and they were coming from our own practice. We were all TESOL teachers in the past, TESOL practitioners. Then I had to think about my role as a PBL facilitator. So how much involvement would I need to have, considering that they're at postgraduate level? How much help are they going to need from me? Thinking about student needs for skills development. Are they going to need any training in maybe literature searching or performing certain roles? And we had a session working on that, but I don't think it was enough really. And then designing assessment approaches and writing assessment criteria. That was really challenging, particularly with the assessment criteria, because I didn't have any model or any template to work towards. So I had to design them from scratch. And with assessment approaches, it wasn't. I wasn't sure how much of the formative assessment I need to introduce, whether their group work should have been assessed formally, because it wasn't. So those were my considerations. In terms of
Anna,
yeah.
we're out of time, unfortunately. No,
okay.
If you want, you've got 5 minutes for questions if you want to keep going, but then you won't be able to answer.
I'll just 1 minute. I'll finish with the assessment, just looking at the
Okay.
challenges, and then I'll take some questions.
Okay.
So this was the assessment on the module. These are the successes and challenges for the formative assessment. Formative PBL group work resulting in collaborative drafting of PBL accounts, and altogether they produced 5. So the successes were that it was really useful for them to work on the draft before they submit an individual account. But at the same time, I had to make sure that they don't use the draft as it is, word for word, and to avoid collusion. Then the students came back to me with some feedback that it was a really interesting approach, but it was time consuming for them, considering they had other modules and another elective module to work on. Then they really liked the idea of getting feedback throughout the module on their drafts, and it helped them to prepare for their individual assignments. So I didn't need to spend too much time on tutorials at the end of the module, but that created significant workload for myself to read the drafts, and they were in the region of 2,000 words, and prepare feedback. In terms of the summative assessment, so the assignments turned out to be better structured and better written as a result of quite a bit of feedback provided to students. And the reflective element was really useful. They also reflected, as the previous speaker said, on individual and group PBL experience, and they reflected on how it helped them deal with, understand the new topic and resolve problems. At the same time, yes, I spoke about the collusion, so we had to make sure that they don't copy from each other, and writing good criteria, PBL criteria, is something that is an ongoing process and will need further development. Okay, so what I wanted to ask you about, maybe we could have it as a one group discussion. In your opinion, how do you think realistic it would be for you to implement PBL in your professional setting? And what obstacles do you think to adopting PBL do you think you might face? Just a minute, we've got something in chat.
About 1 minute, unfortunately.
Okay.
Question.
Okay, then let's have. Yes, so let's have some questions if there are any. If you'd like to talk about how to design a PBL module and what it entails and the process itself, so feel free to contact me on this email. Yeah, thank you very much. But at the moment, so are there any questions?
There's one in the chat, looks like.
They did that informally, but it wasn't incorporated. There's a question about students having been given an opportunity to provide peer feedback on other group PBL submissions. They did. So what, in fact, they did. What we try to do is to use Blackboard and the blogging discussion board area for them to actually upload their PBL accounts to. So they had a chance to look at each other's work, and they were a bit shy to provide feedback, but at least they could see what others have written, and then they could discuss it informally or in their PBL meetings.